I heard Danielle say the word encounter in training session one, and as I sat in the back, I smiled because I already knew what God had given me. God had already given me encounters, and I had already had everything that He was speaking to my heart. I had it written down, and the definition, as you see, it says it is an unexpected or casual meeting with someone or something. And as I listened to you all, I listened to the encounters that you had in meeting the people or either going into places. But I want you to understand that every last one of us, through what it is, and I'm a little hoarse, that's why I have to use the mic today. But every time you encounter someone or something, I want you to know that it's always a godly encounter. The only reason why some people won't agree that it's a godly encounter is because they go in their own way and they're never able to see God in it.
Amen.
So my motto, my whole being is see God in all things. Whenever you have an encounter, there is something that the Lord wants us to get out of that.
Amen.
There's something for us to get, and then there's something for us to give. Every encounter is not always good, and every encounter is not always bad. But whatever the encounter brings, if it's good, God chooses it to be good for it to remain. If it's bad, God chooses for it to be that way that we would understand and get the experience of that.
Amen.
But there's some things that's bad that God don't always intend for us to hold on to. So every encounter comes with a purpose. And there are some people already that have had the encounter, and that encounter caused them to be able to see God. And yet there's some still having encounters that have not yet saw Him. But what I want you to understand on the day is this. Every last one of us are still yet going to have encounters. I've heard of your encounters from what you said today, and I've heard the end of it. I heard what you got from it. Listen at what you said. Listen at what you said was the end of it. Think about the encounters that you just stood right here and you talked about. Think about it. And then I want you to go back and hear what you said the end of it was. And then you can also see in that place if it was a godly encounter. I think about the different things that has happened, and you can think about the different things out of different encounters that you've had. Let's say, first of all, let's talk about with someone. And if things, however you handled yourself, or however you allowed God to use you in that place, and there is a difference. If you handled yourself from flesh in your own way, based on, as I heard in training session one, dealing with your own intellect, then you may not have given out what was needed to the person that you were dealing with. And then whenever that happens, we can walk away, and then we should say, I should have said this, or I should have done that.
Amen.
But it's at that time you're far enough away, but yet you're close enough to return.
All right. Mm-hmm. All right.
See, that's the key. That's what happens. That's how ungodly encounters are produced, and that's how you stay in it. Whenever you can walk away from something and say, I should have said this, or I should have done that. But I'll just wait. Maybe there'll be a next time. Mm-hmm. No. You're far enough away from the situation to remember. God has allowed you to go away from it to remember what and it brought back to your heart. You didn't even have to go that far, but you're still close enough to to return, to make the encounter. Because even if you even if what or who you encountered, if you didn't give out in a godly manner or give out what it was that person needed, and yet you stepped away from there, you stepped away from the encounter, then whenever it comes back into your heart, just that soon, just that quick, it is for you to turn right back around and go right back. You don't know the day or the hour, so don't put off. If you did wrong and right come to you after you've left wrong, turn around and go back and do what's right.
Amen.
Do what's right. There is time given, and you're not that far away, but you're still yet close enough to be able to return. And when I say close enough, either in your actually physically going back, or either in making a call and say, look, we need to talk, or we need to come back together. But the encounters are intended that we all be able to not only see, but to be able to receive. That's Christ in that place. And as I said, there's a time coming, if you have not received him in an encounter, that as you still keep living prayerfully, that an encounter will happen, whereas that you will receive him in that time. And I want you to understand this, that you have to know that at all times, whatever the encounter is, and this is to get us thinking not backwards, but to think forward.
Amen.
This statement I'm about to make is to cause us to be able to think forward. Not just to live and go into things not knowing or not understanding what may happen, but to be able to think forward. Go into whatever the encounter is in expectation. You have to understand that in the encounter, you got to notice that if you go this way, you got to always notice that God is always in the place. He's there before you get there, and he's always on time. See, if we start thinking of this whenever we start meeting people or whenever we're in an encounter, then we won't have to worry about doing the wrong thing or saying the wrong thing, because he's there. Who is it to say who it is we'll meet? It's not up to us. I heard Mother said, she said, I didn't go. She said, I didn't. Did you say you didn't go anywhere this past week?
I didn't.
Okay. So the only encounter she may have had may have been through the phone.
Right.
Or maybe someone may have came to her house if she didn't go. But this is the key. This is the key for kingdom people, for kingdom-minded people. This is the key. Our encounters has to be in the kingdom. I'm going to show you something seriously, because I don't want to get off of someone to go into something without really going through and dealing with someone. See, you may not know what's in store for you whenever you have the encounter, but if you think forward, then like I said, you'll always know that he is present and he was there before you even got to the place of the encounter. And what he's going to do is he's going to allow us through consecration, because sometimes we get in places and we go through things with people, and sometimes we keep our mouths shut, because in that place we're listening, because we know what we're going to say, what we want to say, but yet, just like the word of God say, he constrains us in that place. He's able to hold us back, and we're able to hear what's being said, and still yet, in that place, just give us a little prayer. I don't want to come out of character. God help me. Something as simple as God help me. Not him. God help me.
That's right.
This is my encounter. God help me.
That's right.
See, they may be acting, but God help me.
That's right.
Not to act like that. Not to come out of character and be as they are.
Amen.
This is not, every encounter serves a purpose.
Amen.
Every encounter serves a purpose. And if we don't go into the encounter, we'll miss our purpose. We'll miss it. If you do not go in miss it. And let me say this to you. This is so, let me see if I was to use a word. Hopefully, when I tell you this, you'll be able to put it in whatever perspective you want to put it in. But I don't know if you know that some of our encounters, people have prayed for it.
All right.
My God.
Amen.
Some encounters that we have with people, people have prayed for it. Don't get me wrong. People have prayed that God would put someone on their path.
Amen.
People have prayed that God would do this or do that for them, not knowing, we not knowing, that the encounter that we had is a prayer answered.
My God.
Is a prayer answered. So that's what I'm saying. You're going to have to be able to know how to go into it. You know, not backwards, but go into it expecting. Go into that encounter expecting, because you don't know who prayed for you.
My God. Amen.
You don't know who prayed to meet you.
Amen.
You don't know who prayed. So all we have to do is to be able to stay in the vein and let him use us to answer that encounter's prayer.
Wow.
If we can get a mindset, if we can get a heart set that as we go, and it's in our going, that we're going to answer. God is sending us into a place where he's already present, there on time to answer somebody else's prayer. Somebody, and they, you know, and God places in us what they have need of. He will never send us into an encounter of that nature without us having what that person have need of. And then I thought about, well, let me go into the things. Sometimes you will encounter things. Somebody tell me what a thing might be. You encounter people. That's people. But sometimes you will encounter things. Come on, it's real clear. Accidents. You'll come up on something. You'll encounter some things. You know, even your car may even run and get a flat tire. You know, different things will happen that it's just like what you would say by yourself. You know, you can be driving your car and you get a flat tire. But don't you understand that sometimes in those places we come up on an accident and we see and traffic is stopped. And so we can't get past that, or it's moving real slow. In those places, that's why I'm saying in any place of encounter, consecration really does work. Because you never know. You're speaking whenever you're dealing with the people. You have already prayed, or either in some encounters, you will have to pray. I mean, something as simple as, Lord, help me. You know, whatever. And then, you know, you use the different steps. But when it comes to, I love it whenever I thought about like a flat tire or an accident. You can think of many more things you can say, but I thought about it in this sense. When I come to those things, and if I'm alone, that's a alone time that I can wait for somebody to come and repair the tire or to fix the tire. God, in that place of me being by myself or sitting there in an accident, sitting there waiting to go through that accident, that's the time that I need to have an encounter with God. In that place, He'll allow us to encounter things. Sometimes you be so busy. Sometimes, your mind be going, you be racing, you have so much on your plate to do.
Yeah.
That sometimes, just for God to get your attention, just to say, hey, there's a flat tire, there's an accident, there's something that He'll do to cause you to come to a stop.
Amen. That's right. Amen.
To cause you to come to a stop so that you can encounter Him.
Amen.
You can remember Him. In those types of encounters. If we're going to have encounters, we should have encounters in the kingdom. Some things I wanted to say this thing that whenever I started to say to jump off, but I didn't want to leave the people first. Some things God will even allow you, just as I heard Jess telling Danielle. God will put you in a place of solitude, singleness by yourself, oneness, away, apart. And the encounters that you have with God in that place. It's more than a building block. It's so much more. It's a building of a relationship with God like none other.
So true.
Like none other. So much so to the place, whereas when you were there by yourself, your home, because you're going to be encountering God in that place. Your home you can have an apartment, whereas if somebody do come and open and you open the door, they step across the threshold, the power of God present in that place. From your relationship with God in that place. Sometimes it won't even take a talk. It will just take them being able to walk over your threshold. It's all right. They will know because of the encounters you will have with Him. They'll be able to know that they stepped out of something and stepped into something totally different than what they're stepping out of. The encounters.
Amen.
The encounters. I thought about it. And I thought about in the Word. We would say that Jesus had encounters, but no, He didn't. The people that came to Him had an encounter.
Amen.
And that's the acid test. That's the acid test. Because see, just like I heard when I heard Toya talking, one thing I understand about an encounter with Christ is when you encounter Him, you will change.
Mm-hmm. Amen.
You will change. And the process of change is totally different than having an encounter with Him. There's no lingering, because my heart is set towards. My mind is set towards a change. And if I want to change for real and I encounter Him, then I am changed.
Amen. That's it.
I am changed. Look, the people that encountered Christ, He did not perform what they needed done and then they had to go away and be healed. For 7 to 10 days after you leave me, everything should be all right. You should be completely healed. Seriously? No. Even as they went, they were healed. When He sent the lepers back, when He sent the lepers and told them, say, go show yourself to the priest, they was walking already. Come on. Why is it that we say we are encountering Him and we're walking and we ain't healed till 3 and 4 months later?
Ooh.
But you done had an encounter.
Ooh.
He done touched you.
Ooh.
He done delivered you. But there's no sign of it till 7, 8 months down the road. You haven't encountered Him.
My God.
you have not encountered him.
Amen.
Anybody that encountered Christ, they were whatever. Healed, delivered, made free, whatever.
Instantly. Amen.
How long?
Instantly.
Let me check out. You might have to use a different word. You may have to use a different word because I'm serious. I think about the woman at the well when she got to the well and she encountered him. Look, let's break that up real good. What was she doing?
Prostituting. Oh, adultery.
What was she doing? When she encountered him, what was she doing?
Getting water. Getting water.
So what was she doing?
Working.
Yes, she was.
Active.
Yes, she was. Yes, she was.
And sleeping with somebody else.
But
Yes, she would.
yes, she was. But not. But that was what Christ knew.
Right. Amen. When he used the word.
And she knew that's what she was doing.
That's right.
And he already knew.
Amen.
But she stopped doing what she was doing to do what was needful for her soul.
Amen.
It was time for her to go get water.
Amen.
She didn't know she was going to have an encounter at the well. See, that's what I'm trying to tell you. You won't do what you're supposed to be doing.
My God.
You will not do what you're supposed to be doing. That's why you can't have an encounter.
Jesus. Amen.
The water wasn't coming to her. She went to the water.
That's right. Amen.
See, we want to say we have encounters and we sit down in the same place doing the same thing. No, you're not.
Oh God.
I can get an encounter going to my job. I can get an encounter from my job to my home. It's in your going. That's all I'm trying to tell you.
Amen.
It's in your going. He's there. Remember what I told you? He's already there, in place, on time, before you even get there. So how can you have the encounter if you don't get to where he is?
Amen.
Let's not think that everybody that had an encounter with Christ that came to him, let's not think that everybody's need was to be healed or to be delivered from, whatever was going on in them. Because I had to stop and think. There are them that's all right in the body, but just ain't all right in the mind. And they're not crazy. Let's think about the rich young ruler. He wasn't sick. Not in his body. It was just the way he thought about what it was he had. But when he had that encounter with Christ, he exposed him to the way that he thought. And the mind was off. His mind was wrong. So he had to have a mind encounter with Christ. See, so many that we read about, it was blindness, it was lameness, it was this, it was that, it was leprosy, it was this, it was that. But having everything that you think you have and not having a sound mind, you still need an encounter. And only he knows the heart. And I can tell you with that particular encounter, you really, well, I'm going to use you in that place. You don't have to go nowhere. Because you can sit in your house and he can deal with your heart, because if your mind ain't right, your feet won't move. telling you what I know.
That's true. Sometimes I don't want to lose.
I understand. I understand. Even with this rich young ruler, his mind wasn't right concerning the possessions that he had. And what he had him. Until he had that encounter. And then how he left showed us that he didn't want to depart. He didn't want to be free from what had him. That he thought he had. I want you to think about your encounters. You've been going, I think about how about Abram. Whenever, his encounter was with the voice of the Lord. See, he hearkened to the voice. His encounter was with the voice. When he told him to get thee up out of that country, leave your family. He was serving and worshiping an idol God. But for what God had for Abraham, Abram had to get up. That's the first thing he told him. Get thee up. And get out. He had to move. And in his moving, he had so many encounters.
Amen.
Oh my God. He had so many encounters with God. I think about Jacob. I love Jacob. And I think about how Jacob was running, got on the run. But I thank God for the encounters he had. He still had to leave. He had to move. And one thing I love, oh my God, about Jacob and his encounter, you have to know that you have encountered him.
Amen.
I thought about Jacob whenever Jacob wrestled. And he said, I ain't gonna let go till you bless me. But whenever he received the blessing, when he said, your name is going to change. And thou shalt no more be called Jacob, but what? Israel. How did Jacob know that he had an encounter? Jacob left with a limp. But he was still walking. He was still going. The limp was when the hip bone just got out of place. But it didn't stop him from still going. That was the sign of the encounter that he had. And when he walked out, he was still walking. Yeah, go find it.
Because I just have a question about that. I'm
Go
not
ahead.
negating anything, but I thought whenever I read it, I always understood. I mean, he had already been blessed. The angel had to catch him like that because light was coming, and he still wouldn't let him go even after he had already blessed him. And I believe because of maybe he was excited. Maybe he didn't hear the angel had already blessed
No,
him.
but one thing, you missed it.
Okay,
You have to know.
you're right.
There has to be something of your knowing.
Yes, ma'am. I understand.
Do you understand me?
Yes.
I do.
There
understand.
has to be something
Got it.
of your knowing.
Got it.
Right, but with his though, I would believe that it would be. I get the point you're trying to make, and I understand it, and I agree with it. But with him, I thought it was always a sign because he was disobedient to the angel. After he had been blessed, he was still gripped onto him, and he had to depart before the sun or the light was coming. And so, and I don't want to missay it, but that's why the angel had got him in his hip like that to dislocate it, so something could jolt him to let him make let the angel go so he could depart.
Who is stronger?
Christ. Strong.
The angel was what?
Christ.
Is that okay?
Uh-huh.
So you mean to tell me that Jacob was stronger than Christ and he could not break free?
That Christ can break free?
Yeah.
No, I don't believe that in that sense. I do believe that he was stronger physically, but I thought that was something that had to been done so Jacob would let him go. That's
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
I understand how you.
Yes, ma'am.
The woman at the well. Whenever she had that encounter with Christ, there was something in her that she knew that she did not know that who he was to know that he knew it. And whenever he was able to bring all things that she knew back to her, she couldn't do nothing but to turn around, and she went back into the city. And she said, what? Come see a man that told me everything I ever did. Everything. And all I'm saying is that in your encounter with Christ, you will know that he is. And you will know that you have been in the presence of the Most High. You will know. You'll come out. You got to come out knowing. Even whenever he allows something to happen to stop us in our tracks to get back into his presence, or to get back into right relationship with him, or to get us back to a place of where we greater than where we were, let's say it like that. He will allow something to happen, and in that place we still come out. We come out knowing that we too have had an encounter with the Lord. Encounters.
Oh no, you was right, Apostle.
Mm-hmm.
He blessed him after he
It's okay.
struck.
Yeah, it's okay. As I said,